Hey YouTube, Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Wot Yu-Gi-Oh deck profile for post Chaos Impact. Wanted to do an update to the deck. We actually received a new Wot card in the booster set, a very good spell card for the deck. It really changes up the speed that you can do with all your different Wot cards. The point of the Wot deck being to attack your opponent directly and then also just stall out by using the different effects that your Wot monsters have when they inflict direct damage to your opponent to really just shut down your opponent, get additional searches, and then, like I said, make use of the different Wot spell and traps we have, along with some other Thunder type monsters that really do help speed up the deck. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So to start off for the monsters, I run 3 Wot Cobra, one of your main Wots in the deck. This card can attack your opponent directly. When this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent by direct attack, you can add 1 Wot monster from your deck to your hand. So you can even search out Wot Cobra. It's very useful just to add the Wot monsters into your hand. For the different plays you can do, very, very important because obviously the new Wot spell, which is Wot Train, definitely does help just to swarm out the different Wot monsters onto the field and search them. So just having Cobra set up your hand with a bunch of different Wot monsters definitely does come in handy, and that 1000 damage consistently to your opponent directly can really help just to dwindle down their life also, just like all the other Wot monsters we run in the deck. I also run 3 Wot Giraffe. With this one, this card can attack your opponent directly, just like Wot Cobra. And when this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent by a direct attack, your opponent cannot activate spell traps or spell or trap effects or monster cards until the end of this turn. So it shuts down your opponent, letting you set up all of your cards you want on the field without any worry about your opponent activating anything in response. And the fact that Wot Giraffe has 1200 attack is just another big part of damage you can, obviously inflict to your opponent with the different cards we have. Like I said, Wot Train being a very useful part of the deck just to be able to get your Wot monsters out very quickly from your hand. But Wot Giraffe being able to shut down your opponent as the first attack as well means that you can obviously do the rest of your direct attacks without any fear as well against your opponent. And for the last of the 3 ofs for the Wot monsters, I also run 3 Wot Pheasant. This card can attack your opponent directly, and when this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent by a direct attack, select 1 face-up monster on the field, remove it from play until the end of this turn. Just a good way to take care of, let's say, a pesky card. It really makes your opponent think what they want to stop, attack-wise, whether it be Giraffe, Cobra, or Pheasant. Pheasant takes care of, obviously, pesky monsters that are on your opponent's field that otherwise would be quite difficult for you to get over. I just like it for the other fact that it's also a 1000 attack point monster. So along with Giraffe and Cobra, you're hitting for some pretty big damage with this card. So remember that when you use it. And I just like the 3 ofs for all of them, so you have the search options available since it's very easy just to add multiple copies and then use multiples of them on the field as well. And since the fact that they're all level 4 monsters, it opens up your deck for a bunch of rank 4 plays that you can do that definitely does help as well for the deck. And I also run 2 Wot Fox. I run Wot Fox just for the fact that it is a tuner, so it also opens up play for Wot Chimera, our level 6 Synchro in the deck. If this card is destroyed by your opponent's card, either by battle or card effect, your opponent cannot special summon a monster or activate spell trap effects, or monster cards for the rest of this turn. So it kind of shuts them down like Wot Giraffe. I wouldn't say it's as good as Wot Giraffe, but still, kind of ends your opponent's turn after they destroy this card. But the main reason I run this card is for the fact that it is the level 2 tuner to make your Wot Chimera, which that card definitely is a strong synchro monster to go into, and very easy since you don't have to wait a turn for the plays either, for the fact that you'll be able to easily special summon out 2 Wot monsters with the famous Wot Train that we've talked enough about in the video already, but also just very, very useful for that mechanic. And then for the additional Thunder support, I decided to run the Thunder family in the deck just for the search power of Wot Train and just how easily it is to use the different effects to swarm the field, so then we can make more use of our extra deck. So I run 3 Paw Hunter. Once per turn, you can normal summon 1 level 4 light Thunder type monster from your hand, except for Paw Hunter, as an additional normal summon. So along with Paw Hunter, we also have the 3 Maw Hunter, which has the same effect, except for obviously summoning Maw Hunter herself. But this option gives you the 2 monsters on the field, which then fulfills your search for the Wot Train, which we'll get to when we move on to the spells. I decided not to run Thunder Seahorse since I really do like special summoning with the deck. I felt it kind of limited it. If you're going first, you get the search for Thunder Seahorse first or second, but then you obviously have to make use of the card. Since you don't have any special summoning, you have to rely more on just the direct attack and the back row. But if you need that special summon to take care of one of your opponent's cards, and you're without it because of Thunder Seahorse, that's the one reason I went against it. And you have plenty of the 3-ofs to open up some of the important cards you need for the deck. And Maw Hunter and Paw Hunter definitely do just help with those additional plays. And lastly, I also run the 3 Bro Hunter. Not the same effect as Maw and Paw, but when this card is normal summon, you can add 1 level 4 light Thunder type monster from your deck to your hand, except Bro Hunter, giving you the search for whatever you need. You can even search out some of the Wot monsters, which then you can easily special summon out. You can even, summon Maw or Paw, and then use their effect to summon Bro Hunter, giving you the search, having the 2 on the field, giving you the search for that, and then the additional search from the Wot Train, putting a total of 3 different Wot monsters in your hand for you to use come next turn. So very, very useful there as well. I decided against the Wot Hopper lock since Wot Train has to specify the different Wot monsters from your hand, so you can't easily summon 2 Wot Hoppers unless you obviously have the 1-for-1 play, which is just a 1-of in the deck, so not as consistent. Or you could obviously normal summon the 1 Wot Hopper, but it would still be an attack position, putting you at a disadvantage if they do take away the 1 Wot Hopper. But if you wanted to try and fit it in, I would maybe suggest dropping the numbers of Maw and Paw and Bro down to 2 for all of them, and then putting in a playset of the Wot Hopper if you wanted to try it out in the deck. And that is it for the monsters. We'll now move on to the spells. 3 of the new Wot Train. I really do love this card. It's very, very strong. You add Wot cards with different names from your deck to your hand, except Wot Train, up to the number of thunder monsters you control with different names. During your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard to special summon as many Wot monsters as possible with different names from your hand. You can only use each effect of Wot Train once per turn. So this is the reason why the search with Bro Hunter and then the search previously with Wot Train is very, very useful. The fact that you can get the 3 in your hand with the search off of Bro Hunter and then obviously the search with Wot Train if you have your 2 Thunder family on the field gives you the 3 in your hand to the next turn banish Wot Train and then special summon all 3 out to the field, and that's 3,000 attack points directly to your opponent with a bunch of different search and shutdown effects for your opponent. And also it says Wot cards, so you don't even have to search the monsters if you already have them in your hand. You have options for some of the other spell and traps I'm running in the deck as well to search, which definitely can help with your Wot plays. So you definitely need 3 of Wot Train for the deck. For some of the 1-ofs for the Wot spells, I run 1 Wot Cancel. Any monster that attacks a Wot monster loses 1,000 attack after damage calc. It's not until end of turn either. It's a permanent loss for the Wots. And also 1 Wot Scene. When a Thunder type monster you control inflicts battle damage to your opponent and gain life points equal to the damage inflicted. So you're able to obviously gain a lot of life back with the direct damage you take. And I only run the 1-ofs of each of these because they are searchable by Wot Train. So if I really do end up needing the cards, I can just easily search them to my hand. So very, very useful for that mechanic, and why I decided on the numbers and why I decided not to run Terraforming along with the deck, since it is searchable with an easier spell card to use in the deck. And I also run 2 recycling batteries, just a good way to get back resources if I use them for an extra deck play. If I obviously link summon with the Wot monsters, and then I had Wot Train in the graveyard already, I'm able to add them back with recycling batteries and then banish the Wot Train for special summoning them. Definitely does help just for consistency all throughout the graveyard and the field. So really do love when that goes off smoothly. And one of my favorites, I've always ran it in the Wot deck, still love it just because it helps protect against my opponent's monsters, is Messenger of Peace. You must pay 100 life points during each of my standby phases. If you cannot pay, this card is destroyed. All monsters with an attack of 1,500 or more cannot attack. No problem for your Wot monsters, or even, Wot Chimera, since they're all below that and they can attack directly. So you're not limited, but your opponent definitely is. And having to go through 3 of these cards, if you open up the good number and end up searching them, definitely just makes it focus on this for your opponent to take out, and then just leaving your Wot monsters alone. And only having to pay 100 life means we can run plenty of the different counter traps just to protect ourselves more from our opponent's cards while we successfully get off the direct attacks. And then lastly, just the 1 Monster Reborn. Plenty of Thunder monsters get to our graveyard with either summoning or just, being destroyed. So being able to summon them back. It could be the 1 direct attack short you need to win the game. So very useful there. And that is it for the spells. We'll now move on to the traps. I run 1 Wot Cancel. Now you can mix this number around with the Solemn Brigade, which we'll get to in just a sec on how many you want to run. But once again, a searchable card with Wot Train. It's a counter trap. When your opponent would normal or special summon a monster, discard 1 Wot monster, negate the summon, and destroy it. So a good way to take care of your opponent's cards. It also sets up the graveyard for plays like Monster Reborn as well, if you need to. But like I said, I might bump it up to 1. It's a searchable card. That's the one reason I do love it in the deck now, for the fact that we have it with our Wot Train, but still very, very useful. To protect our Wot monsters when Messenger Piece isn't coming in as handy, just to have more options, I run 3 Storming Mirror Force. When opponent's monster declares an attack, return all of your opponent's attack monsters to the hand. Just a good way to take care of those pesky monsters once again. With this trap, just bouncing them back to the hand. Link monsters especially, since they're always in attack mode. When you, like I said, if your opponent destroys Messenger Piece and you have some other set cards, they really don't see the Storming Mirror Force coming. And I also run 2 Solemn Strike. This is for the Solemn Brigade, the 2 Solemn Judgment, and the 1 Solemn Warning. If you wanted to add in a second Wot Cancel, you could take out the Solemn Warning. I really do use Judgment and Strike the most in the deck. This just stops my opponent's cards from destroying my Messenger Piece and other ones. And with Messenger Piece only being 100 life points per turn, you're really not, taking too much of a risk with these cards in the deck as well. And that is it for the main deck. We'll now move on to the extra deck. For the Synchros, I have the 1 Wot Chimera. If you want to try like a Stardust Charge Warrior for the second spot, you can give it a shot, but this is your main Synchro to go into. This card can attack your opponent directly, and when this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent by a direct attack, place 1 random card from your opponent's hand on top of the deck. So you can just keep looping them if you direct attack with them. Putting a card back, they draw the same card, and they really, if they're stuck with that 1 card and just needing an additional card, you can just loop them until you win the game, because there's not much else they can do. That's why I really love Wot Chimera. Very useful card in the deck. But like I said, if you want to add a second Synchro, since we do run the 2 Wot Fox, you can consider a Stardust Charge and then just take out one of the Exceed monsters. For the Exceeds, I run 1 Starliege Paladynamo and 1 Bujinte Tsukiyomi just for draw power. Very, very useful. Gaga Cowboy for the additional burn that we can do with the deck. Castel for shuffling back cards. Utopia and Utopia the Lightning for the big attack plays. 1 Daigusto Morale for the recycle, and 1 Tornado Dragon for more problem solving against my opponent's back row. And for the Link monsters, I run the 1 Nightmare Cerberus, the 1 Nightmare Phoenix, the 1 Underclock Taker, the 1 Hippo Shenengen. If you wanted to run some Summer Summoner, you can try taking out the Underclock and the Hippo Shenengen for 2 of those spots. Since it is a Thunder Link monster, that definitely does help for special summoning some of the Thunder monsters. And then for some of the bigger Link monsters, the 1 Nightmare Unicorn and the 1 Boral Sword Dragon, for when you can make them, definitely is useful. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Until next time, I'm going to have plenty more decks as well from the Rising Rampage, so definitely look forward to it. But until then, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.